Hello. General Hospital spoilers will reveal the possibility of Jordan Ashford being pregnant sends a quiet but undeniable ripple through Port Charles, creating a new layer of emotional strain for Curtis Ashford at a time when he is already overwhelmed by shifting loyalties, unfinished relationships, and the weight of becoming a father under complicated circumstances. Curtis has only just begun to adjust to the idea of raising a child with Portia Robinson despite their divorce, and the confirmation of her pregnancy through DNA testing had given him at least one solid truth to hold on to. Yet this stability is fragile, because his bond with Jordan has been growing again in ways neither of them fully planned, and the prospect of another pregnancy, one potentially tied to him, threatens to reshape the fragile balance he is trying to maintain. The entire situation intensifies when the possibility arises that Jordan might manipulate the paternity in her favor, repeating the type of deception that people in Port Charles have long associated with Portia rather than with her. As Curtis tries to navigate his new reality, he finds himself standing between two versions of fatherhood, one built on the hope of repairing trust with Portia, and another emerging from the unexpected renewal of intimacy with Jordan. Portia has stepped away from Curtis emotionally and is moving forward with Isaiah Gannon, leaving little room for reconciliation, but Curtis still feels responsible for the life growing inside her. Meanwhile, Jordan remains focused on the fear that Portia's pregnancy will irreversibly bind Curtis to his ex-wife again. This fear grows into a quiet panic, convincing Jordan that if she herself is pregnant, this new development may secure her place in Curtis's life, giving her something she believes she has been losing ever since Portia re-entered the picture. For Jordan, the thought of losing Curtis again is unbearable, and every sign that Portia's life is moving on with Isaiah only sharpens Jordan's desperation. The moment Jordan suspects she might be pregnant, her internal battle deepens. She knows that timing will determine everything. Portia's confirmed pregnancy already places Curtis in a complicated emotional position, and Jordan worries that a second child could become the deciding factor in who Curtis chooses to build a future with. Yet despite her fears, Jordan is not merely wishing for a child as a weapon. She is clinging to the hope of preserving the connection that has slowly rekindled between her and Curtis. Her anxiety spirals further when she considers what Curtis hopes for. He wants Portia's child to be his, not because he wants Portia back, but because he longs for a sense of redemption after all the fractures in their marriage. Jordan interprets this hope as a threat, worrying that fatherhood might become the bridge that returns Curtis to Portia, even though Portia herself has already emotionally detached from him. Behind these fears lies an even darker possibility. The mere whisper of Jordan falsifying a paternity test generates shock throughout Port Charles, not because the act would be unprecedented, but because such behavior is more often linked to Portia than to Jordan. The suspicion, however, grows naturally from Jordan's emotional vulnerability and her escalating fear of losing Curtis. Even the hint that she might consider manipulating DNA results fuels tension around her character. Jordan begins to imagine how drastically her future could change depending on the outcome of a pregnancy test, and this possibility slowly becomes an obsession she cannot shake. Every choice she faces seems to pit her against Portia, even though Portia does not want Curtis back and has fully turned toward a future with Isaiah. In truth, the chaos that Jordan fears may never come to pass. Portia's feelings for Curtis have cooled, and her attention is firmly on Isaiah, leaving no sign that she intends to reclaim her former marriage. Yet Jordan cannot let go of the belief that one shared child could be enough to rekindle old loyalties, especially for a man like Curtis who values responsibility, family, and redemption. The uncertainty surrounding two simultaneous pregnancies and the looming question of paternity threaten to draw all three of them into a spiral of emotional conflict. Jordan's need for reassurance, Curtis's struggle to define his future, and Portia's desire for independence collide in a storyline that tests the limits of truth, loyalty, and identity. As speculation spreads across Port Charles, the question grows louder and more unsettling. If Jordan is carrying Curtis's child, will it bind them together? Or will it expose a desperate lie that could destroy everything they are trying to rebuild? Rumors surrounding Jordan Ashford's potential pregnancy take on a sharper, more electrifying edge the moment Brick's name is introduced into the conversation, cracking open a possibility that no one in Port Charles saw coming. Up until now, Curtis Ashford has believed with absolute confidence that Jordan had not been involved with anyone before their reconciliation. The only relationship she exited prior to reconnecting with Curtis was her short-lived involvement with Isaiah Gannon, a relationship that ended decisively in late April 2025 and left no lingering romantic attachment on either side. Isaiah moved forward into something deeper with Portia Robinson, and nothing in his demeanor suggests he would ever circle back to Jordan, let alone be entangled in a secret pregnancy. That makes the timeline for him being the father nearly impossible, and Curtis, at least for the moment, remains comfortably unaware that another man might even be part of the equation. Yet the shadow of uncertainty grows the moment Brick enters the storyline. While General Hospital has never shown an explicit intimate encounter between Jordan and Brick, the chemistry has always lingered subtly at the edges. Brick's playful flirtation, Jordan's amused tolerance, and the lingering suggestion that something more could have unfolded outside the camera's view. It is exactly the kind of understated tension soap operas love to ignite later, transforming small exchanges into explosive revelations. The idea of Brick being the potential father feels both outrageous and perfectly dramatic, especially given Stephen A. Smith's larger-than-life persona and the unexpected shock value his involvement would bring. Viewers might never expect to see a full flashback of intimacy involving him, yet the very improbability of it makes the speculation irresistible, fueling whispers across Port Charles and fandom alike. If the writers choose to lean into this possibility, it opens a new layer of psychological tension for Jordan. Her past has always been a complicated landscape of loyalty, secrecy, and conflict, and introducing Brick as a hidden factor turns that landscape into a minefield. The uncertainty of conception timing means Jordan cannot rely solely on a positive pregnancy test to determine who the father is. Only a medical scan could reveal how far along she is, and even then, emotional complications would remain. Brick's potential involvement would not simply be a personal misstep, it would be a direct threat to the fragile emotional stability Jordan has been trying to rebuild with Curtis. It would also challenge the image she projects steady, loyal, and controlled, casting doubt on how well anyone truly knows her. Meanwhile, Curtis remains entirely unaware that a second potential father even exists, which adds a dangerous tension beneath the surface. With no reason to distrust Jordan, he would never think to request a DNA test, especially not after having already endured the emotional strain of Portia's past deception. Jordan could find herself trapped between truth and self-preservation, afraid that admitting even the possibility of Brick's involvement would shatter what little progress she and Curtis have made. Her desperation to secure that relationship and her terror of losing it might push her into silence, creating the exact kind of moral dilemma that spirals into long-term catastrophe on a soap opera. The simple question of paternity becomes a loaded weapon in her hands, one she may not know how to control. Ultimately, the mystery of Brick's potential connection to Jordan becomes less about physical possibility and more about psychological volatility. Port Charles thrives on secrets, and this one has the potential to consume Jordan from the inside out. Until a doctor's examination establishes the timeline of conception, she has no certainty, and the lack of clarity is intoxicating and terrifying all at once. Whether the child belongs to Curtis or Brick, the truth will eventually surface, because nothing stays buried forever in General Hospital. And when it does, the fallout could redefine not only Jordan's relationships, but Curtis's future, Portia's lingering fears, and Brick's unexpected entanglement in a drama far deeper than he ever anticipated. The growing uncertainty surrounding Jordan's pregnancy begins to take shape within her before any doctor can confirm a timeline, and the weight of that uncertainty becomes almost unbearable. Every small shift in her body feels like a warning. Every quiet moment becomes a space where her mind replays the fragmented possibilities of her past. Curtis's warmth and renewed affection only deepen her internal conflict, because now she feels trapped between the version of herself she wants to become and the woman she fears she may still be. Even the memory of Brick's subtle advances lingers in ways she cannot push aside, turning her private thoughts into a battlefield she is terrified to face head-on. With every passing hour, the truth becomes harder to grasp, and the possibility that one careless night could alter the course of multiple lives begins to gnaw at her resolve. As Jordan tries to maintain her composure, Curtis remains blissfully unaware of the emotional storm brewing beside him. He interprets Jordan's scattered moments of distraction as stress from work or exhaustion from emotional healing, never suspecting the deeper reason behind her hesitation. He has already spent years entangled in secrets and betrayals, and for the first time in a long while, he believes he is rebuilding something stable. The idea of becoming a father again, especially in a situation not clouded by Portia's past deception, feels like a second chance he desperately wants to honor. His optimism blinds him to the unspoken fear in Jordan's eyes, and his confidence becomes a painful reminder of everything she stands to lose if the truth goes in the wrong direction. As Jordan prepares for her first medical appointment, dread takes hold of her in a way that even her years as police commissioner could not prepare her for. She knows that a simple ultrasound has the power to expose the truth she wants to avoid, revealing how far along the pregnancy is and potentially confirming whether Curtis or Brick is the father. Each possibility carries its own brand of devastation. If Curtis is the father, the fear of losing him to responsibilities with Portia still looms large. If Brick is the father, the shock alone could dismantle everything Jordan has tried to rebuild, publicly and privately. Her entire future feels suspended in a fragile state, waiting for a single medical image to define her destiny. Meanwhile, Brick remains completely oblivious to the role he may have played in Jordan's unraveling. His brief flirtations, once harmless and playful, now echo with a weight he never intended to carry. The irony is that Brick always viewed Jordan with genuine admiration, but he never imagined she would be pulled back into his orbit in a way that could bind them permanently. If he becomes entangled in a paternity scandal, it would thrust him into a spotlight he never asked for and complicate his long-standing loyalty to Sonny. The implications stretch far beyond romance. They threaten alliances, reputations, and the delicate balance of power within Port Charles. Portia, on the other hand, senses something shifting long before anyone speaks it aloud. Even though she no longer wishes for a reunion with Curtis, she carries a quiet intuition about him that years of marriage never allowed her to fully extinguish. She notices the tension simmering under Jordan's controlled demeanor and recognizes the same anxiety she once felt when hiding her own secrets. Her new relationship with Isaiah gives her peace, but it does not erase the emotional memory of what deception can do to a family. Something in Jordan's eyes, something unsettled, fragile, and restless, tells Portia that another secret is approaching, and she fears the consequences even from a distance. As rumors begin to ripple through Port Charles, the storyline takes on a life of its own. Hospital staff, detectives, and longtime acquaintances exchange knowing glances, speculating about Jordan's unusual behavior. The whispers grow louder each day, drawing unwanted attention to a situation Jordan would give anything to keep hidden. The town has a long history of unraveling secrets at the worst possible moment, and Jordan knows she is losing control of the narrative before she even understands the truth herself. The tension becomes suffocating, turning every hallway of General Hospital into a reminder of how exposed she truly is. When the day of the ultrasound finally arrives, Jordan feels as though she is standing at the edge of a precipice. The sterile walls of the examination room offer no comfort, and the gentle hum of medical equipment feels like a countdown to the truth she has feared for weeks. She braces herself for impact, knowing that whatever appears on the screen will force her to confront realities she has desperately avoided. Her heartbeat becomes a drum of anticipation, her breath shallow and unsteady, as she waits for clarity she is not ready to receive. In that moment, her entire world narrows to the space between uncertainty and revelation. Whatever the ultrasound ultimately reveals will shape not only Jordan's future, but the lives orbiting her. Curtis's hope for redemption, Portia's fragile acceptance of a new life, Brick's unexpected entanglement in a story he never imagined joining, and the broader dynamic of a town where secrecy and truth constantly collide. The answer cannot remain hidden forever, and when it emerges, it will carve a fault line through Port Charles, one that could transform alliances, shatter trust, and reignite old rivalries. For now, the silence before the truth feels as heavy as the truth itself, holding every character in a tense suspension that promises a dramatic and irreversible shift in the chapters to come. Brick's life begins to tilt off its axis the moment whispers reach him that Jordan Ashford's pregnancy may circle back to him. What was once a harmless flirtation suddenly returns as a threat wrapped in uncertainty, and Brick feels the ground shift beneath the confidence he has always carried. His world, usually defined by precision, control, and loyalty within Sonny's organization, becomes clouded by the possibility of an entanglement he never anticipated. He senses the eyes of Port Charles turning toward him, each rumor weaving him deeper into a narrative he did not authorize. The idea that a private moment, whatever its extent, could transform into a defining scandal rattles him in a way no criminal threat ever has. As pressure builds, Brick realizes that this situation is not just personal, but deeply political. His connection to Sonny means every misstep has consequences beyond his own reputation. If he is pulled into a paternity scandal, the fallout could destabilize alliances, fracture trust, and draw scrutiny from people who should never have a reason to examine his private life. His calculated persona, built over years of operating in the shadows with unwavering discipline, begins to crack under the weight of speculation. Brick finds himself replaying every interaction with Jordan, searching for moments that could be misinterpreted, moments he never believed would matter until now. Each recollection becomes a reminder that even those who live in the margins are not immune to the volatile emotional machinery of Port Charles. What unsettles Brick most is the silence. Jordan speaks to no one, Curtis remains unaware, and Portia watches from a distance with a quiet intuition that something is unraveling. This vacuum of information leaves Brick trapped in a state of suspended dread, unable to predict how deeply he will become involved. His mind races through the possible outcomes, each more explosive than the last, and he knows that if the timing aligns unfavorably, he could be thrust into fatherhood in the most chaotic and public way imaginable. The uncertainty gnaws at him, blurring the line between fear and responsibility. Even without answers, he feels the emotional tremors of a story accelerating toward him. The vortex tightens when Brick realizes the truth will surface regardless of his intentions. Port Charles thrives on revelations, and secrets do not survive long within its walls. Whether he is ultimately confirmed as the father or not, his name is already entangled in the rising tension surrounding Jordan's condition. Reputations will shift, alliances will bend, and Curtis's world may fracture depending on what the medical scans reveal. Brick understands that his involvement, real or rumored, has already altered the emotional landscape of multiple lives. As he braces for impact, he recognizes that the scandal is no longer something he can distance himself from. It has chosen him, pulled him into its momentum, and now threatens to reshape everything he believed was stable.